Today, let's talk about why Social Security is such an awful, terrible, pitiful excuse for a retirement plan. If you've watched my other videos, you know I'm pretty clean cut, steady, on point. I don't get on diatribes very often. Usually you'll offend someone if you do. When you're trying to grow a new YouTube channel, that's not really a great way to do things. With that said, as a financial expert, I'm going to show you why Social Security is such a terrible retirement plan and why we should totally kick it to the curb. However, while we're doing that, I'm not going to point out how it's a legalized government-run Ponzi scheme. I'm not going to point out how it's in major financial trouble and probably won't last most of our lifetimes. I won't point out that even though it's intended to benefit lower-income families, wealthier people actually benefit from Social Security more because they live longer and benefit from the program longer. I'll also restrain myself from highlighting the fact that the government sends out billions, yes, billions of dollars in fraudulent Social Security benefits every year to Americans, over $8.3 billion in 2020 alone. Finally, I'm not even going to touch the fact that we lack the leadership in Washington, be it Republican or Democrat, that has the backbone or the mental wherewithal to fix Social Security before it fails spectacularly. Now, setting aside all that passive-aggressive commentary, Social Security is just trying to do too much for an aging country with a shrinking workforce, strong economic headwinds, and not enough personal savings to weather retirements that are growing longer and longer and becoming more and more expensive. Furthermore, Social Security is a political bargaining chip used by politicians to extend their power, while the rest of us just hope we get something out of the program of benefit. I think there is a much better way for us to approach retirement, but first, let's talk about all the ways Social Security is broken with numbers this time. If you look at your pay stub, you've probably noticed before there's a line of withholding called FICA, Federal Insurance Contributions Act, that's 6.2% of your income. Now, 6.2% actually sounds like quite a bit of money, but it's actually not enough to fully fund a prosperous and, let's call it, comfortable retirement. But the good news is your employer also contributes 6.2% of your income in addition to what you put into the plan each month. And for those of you who are self-employed, you know you get to contribute a double portion, or 12.4% of your income. I want to be clear, this doesn't include the 1.45% that you also contribute to Medicare every pay period. Now, if you've ever been to our website, the heart and soul of it is the Next Dollar Roadmap, which basically shows a progressive path for financial success from negative net worth or lots of debt all the way into financial independence. On milestone 5 of the Next Dollar Roadmap, we recommend that you save at least 15 to 25% of your income for retirement. Between your contributions and your employer contributions to Social Security, again, that's 12.4%, that would cover anywhere from 50 to 82% of that savings goal. Now, you might think, great, the government's already got me most of the way to retirement by themselves, but I wouldn't count on Social Security actually being available to you when you retire. I'm trying not to get political here, but Social Security has a serious math problem. As things stand now, the program will run out of funding sometime in the early 2030s. Now, odds are Congress won't ever let it run out of money completely, but they probably will change the rules. There'll probably be means testing, meaning if you have too much income, you won't be eligible to take Social Security, at least not all of it. They may reduce the amount they actually pay out in benefits every month. There's lots of ways they can kind of shore up the program, but none of them really include giving you more money. Now, if it were up to me, I'd rather just have that 12.4% to invest myself, and I'd really love to show you why. To help me illustrate this point, I'm using a fictional character we like to refer to from time to time. His name is Average Joe. Now, Average Joe represents the average American in every statistical way you can think of, except for income. We use median income to reference Average Joe because average income is actually skewed a little high because of very wealthy people in our country. But Average Joe's net worth is average. His life expectancy is average. Social Security benefits are average. Everything is average. It's literally a representation of the statistically average American. Now, for our exercise today, we're going to assume that Average Joe is 22 years old and he is a college graduate. The average starting income for a college graduate at the end of 2023 was $58,862. And what we want to find out is how much money Average Joe would have if he invested 12.4% of his income instead of giving that to Social Security. Well, after 40 years, if Average Joe contributed 12.4% of his income, he would have over $2 million saved at an 8% annual rate of return. $2 million is a lot of money. That assumes Joe never gets a raise in that whole 40-year period. If we assume that Joe just gets a modest raise of only 3% annually over that 40-year period, he'd have almost $2.9 million. And if he waits until age 70 to retire, he'll have over $5.3 million. So that's the amount Joe would get if he actually took the 12.4% that normally goes to Social Security and he invested it himself. Now let's look what he actually gets through Social Security. Now we said Joe was going to retire at age 62, and the average benefit for a 62-year-old right now is $1,275 a month. That's actually a little below average. The average monthly Social Security benefit in America is $1,706 at age 67 years old. So if average Joe has an average life expectancy, meaning he'll live until age 79, which the average American male does, Social Security is basically a 17-year annuity for Joe. So it makes sense just to compare this monthly payout and annuity and how much that would be worth in present value. And if you bought a fixed annuity right now that paid out $1,706 a month for 17 years, and you use the 20-year Treasury right now as your interest rate, it would be worth around $285,000. Now, over the course of Joe's lifetime, he put in almost $540,000 into Social Security, which basically means Joe paid $540,000 for a $285,000 annuity. That's a difference of over $250,000 that gets lost or spent elsewhere by Uncle Sam. And that doesn't even include over $2 million of lost opportunity costs that was paid out to current Social Security beneficiaries instead of invested on Joe's behalf. Clearly, average Joe could do better on his own. Now, many of you will be quick to point out that Social Security doesn't just include benefits for old age insurance. There's also a disability benefit for a lot of folks. And you're right, I'm not suggesting that we cut that out at all. But what I would suggest is make a separate tax for it. Leave Social Security as just a disability tax and take the old age insurance or retirement benefits out of Social Security altogether and let people take care of that on their own. As you can see in the pie chart on your screen, only 12.4% of Social Security benefits are actually paid to people with a disability. So for the sake of not overcomplicating things, why not just reduce Social Security tax from 12.4% to 1.55%, which is 1/8 of that number, and leave disabled people with the benefits they already have. The employer could cover 0.775 of that. The other 0.775 would come out of the employee's check, giving you a total of 1.55% tax for disability insurance. Now, because Joe's still going to be paying disability insurance of 1.55%, he'll only be putting 10.85% into retirement savings himself. But even after that, over 40 years, he's going to have over $2.5 million. So what should we do? Well, if you haven't picked up on it already, I think Social Security as a retirement benefit just needs to be destroyed altogether. I know it's not as easy as just pulling the plug on the program because there's a lot of people that rely on those benefits now, but clearly it's not the best way to save for retirement. We've just shown how a 10.85% savings far exceeds the value of what you get out of Social Security now. Not only that, but it just makes sense for people to have the freedom to make financial choices for themselves, especially when the government's taking this so-called retirement program and bleeding it dry and mismanaging it the way they are. But there's also a problem with my idea. The truth of the matter is, if you leave most people with their own devices, they will not save for retirement. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably not normal. I mean, who watches financial videos on YouTube in their spare time for fun? A certain type of person, right? But the majority of society lacks self-discipline to save for retirement themselves. So instead of having that 12.4% tax that goes to Social Security now, why not just have an account for everybody, the same type of account, and force people to make contributions from their income just like you do Social Security tax. Once it's in the account, people can make investment choices on their own, whatever they want to invest in, be it stocks, bonds, conservative, aggressive, international, domestic, doesn't matter. Give them the control to make those decisions, but force them to actually take a stake in their retirement. Employers could continue to be incentivized to contribute on their employees' behalf and even get a tax deduction for making those contributions. And investment companies would have a far easier time managing just one type of plan instead of literally thousands that exist right now. For example, did you know Fidelity manages over 440,000 401k plans? Can you imagine the sheer administrative cost of managing all those accounts? And that's just 401ks. Think about 457s and 403bs and thrift savings plans, IRAs, all these different plans with different rules. It just makes sense to centralize everything. Now, granted, it's not as easy as just making a YouTube video and waving a magic wand and making it happen. It would be very complicated. It would take a lot of time and consideration, a lot of studying. A lot of scenarios would have to be considered. But if you want to look at an example, Australia has actually been doing this for a while. They call it a super there. All their citizens actually contribute to this plan, but they actually have control over the investments that are in it. And I think it's going pretty well. Now, in Australia, they started in July of 2002 with a small percentage of income actually going into the plan. And they've ramped up the amount they have to contribute every year, and it's capped out at 12% beginning in 2025. Now, I'm not saying we need to follow that model exactly, but it does give a bit of an example that we could look at and have an idea of how it would work. Now, if you found the information in this video helpful or interesting, please click like and subscribe below. It helps our channel to grow so we can educate folks about personal finance. We are trying hard to get to 1,000 subscribers sometime before September. We got about 440 to go as the time I'm recording this. We also have tons more information about Social Security, finance in general on our website at martinmoney.com. As always, we're grateful for your time and attention. God bless and take care.